Good evening, everybody. Welcome to BDS
evening.
London. Good evening. We have our lovely Larissa here, and we also have our Pearl K this evening with us as well. Pearl K is our client manager, and Larissa is also client manager marketing. I am the driving instructor, the senior driving instructor for the Best BDS London group, and we hold these webinars on a weekly basis every Thursday evening at 7:30. I think we have 27 webinars now, which are all to do with what you can focus on to pass your driving test, and all the videos, that all the key elements of teaching are on our BDSL online stuff as well. So by attending the webinars, you get free access to that as well. And then you can go and prepare yourself for your driving tests as well. Okay, that's what it's all about. Elizabeth has asked, can someone fail when you drive too slowly? The answer is absolutely yes. Okay, so what speed should you drive when you're driving on your driving test? Okay, so the speed you should drive on your driving test is normally on an open road where there are no, how can I say, no unnecessary obstacles or potential hazards. You should be driving within more or less 3 to 4 miles per hour, maximum 4 miles per hour of the actual speed limit. So if the road is 30 miles per hour, you should be doing around about 27 to 28 miles per hour. If you insist on doing 25, where the road is open and wide and there's nothing, and you do around 25, you will normally get marked for inadequate progress. And if you do a lot of that sort of driving where you are way below the speed limit in places where you should be achieving the speed limit, then you are going to fail your test, because the examiner will add up all those inadequate speeds and he will simply fail you. If, for instance, the road is 50 or 60 miles per hour speed limit and you are doing 35 in an area where you should not be doing 35, but at least 50, 45, 50 or 60 miles per hour, because the limit is 60, you will fail your driving test. So the answer is yes. However, if you are in a roundabout and you are slowing down and doing that carefully, normally that you won't be marked for inadequate progress in a situation like that. Or if you're slow and careful on a junction or a mini roundabout or at a crossing or something, because there are lots of people around, then that would also not necessarily create a problem. You have to be really, really, really slow in those circumstances for that to be marked as inadequate speed. I hope that answers that. Okay, so what we are going to be discussing this evening, how do you know you are ready for your driving test? That's very, very important. You can't go to the driving test if you're not ready for the driving test. First of all, guys, are you ready for your test? Now, what I wanted to know was, the chat is open, so you guys, please, if some of you will just drop in there, how many hours of driving have you already done? Or, so if you say, look, I've done 15 hours, 20 hours, whatever, that helps me as well. So if some people can just type in there, how many hours of driving have you done? And the other question that I've got for you, how many hours, so you can put in 45 or 50 hours or whatever. And the second one, which I'd like you to do, is just, and this second question, I am going to give you, I will put on the line a £10 gift voucher for the second question. So how many hours do you think the average person in the UK does before they actually are normally ready to do their driving test? The average person does before they pass their driving test. So Samuel, do you want to tell us? Samuel wants to talk to us. Yes, Samuel, go for it.
I think 60 to 70 hours, roughly.
Yeah, that you can get up to that sort of figure, be honest with you. And if you look at I was looking at the statistics just now. The DVSA are talking about only 52% of people of the driving test pass their driving test. Now, in one of our previous videos, we had a discussion on what that statistic means. But that's a little bit much. In an intensive driving course, we have found that between 35 to 40 hours is sufficient to pass your driving test. But then you need to do quite a bit of homework as well. There's quite a bit of homework. But a lot of people go up to 60 hours in their driving test, Samuel. Anything else you wanted to discuss there, Samuel? Any other questions?
Yeah, so I also discovered that there's a research that says students who have personal sessions with when you add the 60 hours and you do extra sessions with any driver or home driving with maybe your father or your mother, there's a high percentage that you can pass your test.
Yeah, but Samuel, the problem here that I found in the past, and I'm not discouraging it. I don't discourage the fact that people need to should, if they can, do driving with somebody they want to victimize by having them sit next to them. I don't discourage it. The problem that I found with that type of thing in the past is when the person sitting next to them allows the driver to develop bad habits, which are going to be detrimental in the driving test. So the first thing that you find, and I found this before, I always say to people, look, please do as many hours as you can with your uncle, your aunt, your brother, your sister, your whatever, as many hours as you can. Do as many hours as you can with a person who's got their driving license and has the experience to supervise and help you. I don't discourage that. The only thing I say is you must stick to the procedures. You mustn't be taking shortcuts. And the trouble that you often find as well with that type of thing, especially if it's a parent, is they end up over instructing. So instead of allowing you to drive, because you want to be allowed to drive without excessive instruction. And that's also important when it comes to the driving instructor, because in the driving test, nobody's going to be instructing you what to do. And sometimes I find that people come to me and they've done like 80 hours, and then they're very upset because they can't pass their driving test. But then I find that when I keep quiet, they can't drive. And that's what happens in the driving test. The examiner is not going to sit there and tell you, slow down, do this, watch out for that car, do this, do that. The instructor is not going to be telling you that. He's not the examiner. He's not going to be telling you that. And that's the big secret, is that there's a point at which the instructor must stop instructing. And he must only intervene if a dangerous or serious fault is developing, which can cause an accident. And a lot of times that doesn't happen. The instructor is so continually instructing that he doesn't keep quiet. And that's why a mock test is so important. Okay. Is there anything else, Samuel? You're right about that. If you can get extra hours in, put as many hours as you can on the road, but stick to the rules. Signal correctly, use the proper lanes, make sure you're using the mirrors correctly. Practice using the mirrors. Get used to observing behind you as well as in front of you by using the mirrors correctly. Okay, Samuel?
Yeah, thank you very much for now. Thanks.
Okay, all right. Great. Thanks for that, Samuel. Okay, guys, so I've got some options here. I've got 40 hours, I've got 45 hours, I've got 50 hours, and then I've got 2 years. Okay, so let me talk about years just for one thing. Guys, I've been doing intensive driving course instruction since 2006. And I want to tell you that honestly, to me, there is no difference between a person who's done, well, I do intensive driving courses for a purpose. But to me, there is no difference between a person who has had an intensive course and a person who has had 2 hours or 1 hour per week for 2 years. The person who goes into the driving test, who's done a 7-day full intensive course, can be just as skilled, if not more skilled, than the person who's done 2 years of driving and 2 years of maybe the same number of hours. It's not about how long, over what time it's spread. Maybe the person's a bit more mature because they're 2 years older, but the trouble that you have is knowledge bleed. So the person who climbs into a car on a Monday and has his test on the Friday, and in that period of time has done 40 to 45 hours, and if he's done his background work and his learning, can be just as skilled as the person, if not more skilled than the person who's done that over 2 years. There is this theory that the years make a difference. It's not the years that make a difference. The difference is made by the instruction. How well have you learned your basics? How well have you laid your foundations? You don't lay your foundations better because it's spread over 2 years. I don't believe that. I've never seen that. The foundations are laid by the study that you do and the time you spend behind the wheel. Because the problem that you have, let me just explain something to you about this. I've had this, I keep running up against this thing because the old style driving schools love the fact that they can do 1 hour driving with you. The problem with 1 hour is it actually wastes your time, because in any work study period, they will tell you if they do a work study about a task, 20 minutes of your time on starting a task is an introduction time. Then you have 20 minutes of driving, and then you have 20 minutes of tail off. That means that in an hour's driving, if you're only having 1 hour, you're not getting more than 20 to 30 minutes of value out of that hour. However, if you do 2 or 3 hours sequentially, you only lose 20 minutes at the beginning and 20 minutes at the end, but the rest of the hours in between are fully instructed. So you're getting more value out of that time. And that's not me saying it. You go to any work study, anybody who studies the way people do tasks and work will tell you that. So a person who does an intensive driving course is getting more value out of the hours they're in the car because it's sequential than the person who gets 1 hour a week for 2 years. I mean, 1 hour a week for 2 years is 100 hours of driving. If I had to wait that long for my driving license, I would go stark raving mad. I'm sorry. I'm just not there. But guys, honestly, the period of time is not the thing. If I was BSM or AA, I'd be saying, yes, 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 that's what we should do. No, it isn't. It's a waste of time. Waste of time and a waste of money. What you should do is you need to decide, I'm going to get my license. I want my license this summer. That's how you do it. And the cheapest and most effective way of doing that is get your theory done, learn your road workings and things, climb into the videos we make available for you, which is all your tuition, all your test preparation tuition, roadcraft tuition. Climb in, get those things done. Start your course on a Monday, and 14 days later, finish the course, do your driving test, and you're done. That's what I would recommend, because it's at the end of that period. It's not the It's not the instructor who evaluates you whether you're ready or not to go on the road. The responsibility lies with the DVSA, with the examiner. The examiner sits in the car with you and has a look to see if you are ready or not. And he evaluates you. Now, whether you've had 2 or 3 years of driving, you know, half an hour here, half an hour there, or you've had 40 or 50 hours of driving over 2 weeks, the net result in actual fact is going to be the examiner who does the evaluation. You're not going to be better or less good. It's going to depend on how you've prepared yourself for that exam and whether you've had enough time. Yes, if you do an intensive driving course where some schools do, you get 40 hours, but you spend 30 to 40% of that time in a classroom, you're not going to be ready for your driving test. You need a certain amount of hours behind the wheel, physically driving, to get yourself prepared for the driving test. Now, how much time, right? Okay. So let me give you this, okay? The way to evaluate this is the way you evaluate driving. The first thing is you have to get your theory. I saw a hand come up. You guys can ask questions if you like. I'm quite happy to answer your question. Okay. You have to start by doing your theory and hazard perception. And you need to look at that theory on the process of really getting to know the rules of the road. What are the markings? What are the road markings? What do the road markings mean? What do the signs mean leading up to a roundabout? Don't just answer the questions. Understand what you're going to be dealing with, because you're going to see these things on the roads, and they are going to be life-saving in a lot of situations. You come up to a giveaway line and you're not quite sure what to do there, it's already a problem. You need to understand what it is. How does it work? What is that all about? That's number one. Now you get tested on your theory and your hazard perception. Now, hazard perception is good. It's a good way of getting you to understand what hazards, how developing hazards come about. It's really actually quite a good process. So you do that. Now you've passed your theory and you've passed your hazard perception. Now you start driving. Now you need to take that knowledge and put that knowledge into, I say, like the language of the road, because the markings on the road and the signs on the road create a language for you. You have to understand. That language is really important to understand how that influences you practically. Okay, I see Zain has got his hand up. Let me quickly ask him. Yes, Zain, go for it.
Hiya. I just got a quick question in regards to the theory side. The theory one is, how do you work with the theory? How do you revise and because I struggle.
Okay, the best way to do the theory, Zain, is to grab the artificial intelligence, that system that we've got, to sign on, get the girls to sign you on to that. And then that, what that does is it will monitor the questions, and it will and there's a process of learning how to pass the theory. And if you really want to, you can sign up for an hour's one-on-one tuition. We do that as well. Okay.
Okay. I think that would benefit. And how do I apply for that?
And just contact one of the client managers, give us a call, give our company a call, talk to the client managers, they'll set you up with that. No problem at all. I would suggest book in for an hour's one-on-one tuition, and then that'll give you a very good grounding on how to get through the theory. Okay, Zain? Okay, guys, so let's just carry on. So you've done. Now, normally a person needs between 12 and 14 to 16 hours to revise for the theory. That's actually revising for it, sitting there, studying it, revising it. You need to put in 12 to 16 hours. Some people, maybe because of language, will struggle with that, and they might need to put in 20 to 25 hours in the theory. Okay. Okay, so guys, the next thing is now you've got to put that time in for your theory. All right. And honestly, believe me, those theory signs and the road markings are really, really important for you to actually understand. Okay. All right. Now the next thing you need to do once you've done your theory is to get in the car and start driving. Now, if you do automatic, now let me give you some figures so you can understand. If you go and you study the roadcraft material, you passed your theory, you've done your theory and hazard perception, you passed it, you then go and you do your driving, right? Your actual physical driving. There's roadcraft material which helps you prepare for your driving, which all you have to do is sit and study it. You just sign up for it. Because you've signed up with us, you get that as addition. We don't put you in a classroom. You can sit at home and you can study it. You can do it on your mobile phone. You can do it on the train. You can do it wherever you want. You've got a moment, study those videos, get to know those videos, because that's the roadcraft material you need to be able, and the knowledge you need to get ready for your driving test. Really important stuff. If you don't do that, and you don't do that studying, you are going to add 30% or more hours, because the instructor is going to have to do that work with you in the car, because that is not theory or hazard perception. It's to do with what to do to be able to pass your test. It's roadcraft. It's about understanding the roads, understanding the situations you're going to be in, and doing the right things for the examiner. So he's happy you know what you're doing in the car when you're driving. Because you passed your theory test. It's not that at all. That's not what these videos are about. Okay, so next stage. Now what happens is you're now in the car. Now you've got, I would say that if you're going to do automatic, which was the question we just had from Zaina, if you're going to do automatic, you need around 30 to 35 hours to be ready for your driving test, to do your driving test. You might need 40. That will depend on your own dexterity. Okay? Okay? So you might need more than that. Okay? But you will be able to go to your driving test within 30 to 35 hours. If you're doing manual, it might take up to 40 hours. But there have been situations where people take 30 hours. But again, it's all to do with your ability. Now, how do you know you are ready for your driving test? And this is always my test that I do with my students. I say to them, okay, we're going to do a mock test. In that mock test, you drive unaided and only on navigational instructions. So all I do is I say, at the next junction, turn right. At the end of the road, turn left. Or I put on the sat nav and you have to follow the sat nav. And all I do is I sit and watch like the examiner is going to do. And there's no help. You have to work it out yourself. If a cow runs across the road, you have to stop in time and see the cow coming. If an elephant is lying in the road, you don't go over him. You have to stop. These are things you have to understand how to do. If you get to a zebra crossing and there's a zebra crossing, you've got to stop. These are things you've got to understand. And what you do is the mock test, I'm sitting there with a notepad, and if you do a minor mistake, I'll leave it for correction at the end. But if you make a serious, a dangerous mistake, or a judgment call, I stop the test. That's it. Your test is over. Job done. Now, you might have been driving for 25 minutes when that happens, or you might have been driving for 10 minutes when that happens. You have to be able to drive without those serious, dangerous, or judgment calls for at least 1 hour. Because when you're in the driving test, you're going to be nervous and you're not going to be able to pass the test. So if you can drive with that period of time without a serious, dangerous, or judgment call, you can pass. You should be ready to pass your test. And that's a really, really good way of doing it. So let's say the time is 4 o'clock and we start the mock test. And you drive for 25 minutes, you make a serious mistake. That's it. Your test is over. One serious, one dangerous, or a judgment call. Now, normally, if you only make one judgment call in an hour, you're on the verge. And the examiner will probably let you go with the judgment call. Now, I'll explain to you what a judgment call is. A judgment call is something like hitting the pavement. He can take it as a serious. Obviously, if you do a lot of work driving on the pavement, he's going to take it as a serious or a dangerous. But a touch the pavement, that's a judgment call. He can decide to either mark it as a minor, or he can decide to let it go. Or he can decide, he's either going to take it as a minor and let it go, as long as you don't go driving onto the pavement more than 3 times during the test. Or he's going to mark it. If you've got a serious fault in there, he can pull that judgment call into your second serious. And if you make one judgment call fault on a test, the examiner will let it go. But if you make more than one judgment call, he'll pull both of them into serious fault. Thanks for your comments, guys. I like the comments. I can see quite a few of these comments here. The questions normally people ask Harriet. Harriet, I'll get to you just now. If you want to just leave your hand there, that's fine. I'll see your question just now. Just quietly, guys, a judgment call is something that can be regarded as a serious fault. A judgment call is normally either a serious or a minor, and it depends on how the examiner judges that. Like missing a mirror check is not normally a serious fault. It's normally a minor. But if you get a number of minor faults, then those minor faults can add up. If you get 3 to 4 minor faults in the same category, they can add up to a serious fault, and then the examiner can mark it as a serious fault. But sometimes, say you're approaching a crossing, and as you get to the zebra crossing, somebody comes running from behind you to use the zebra crossing, and you're already crossing it. That could be a judgment call. It depends on how the examiner sees that. Should you have been able to see that person coming before you got to the crossing? And the answer is you should try to have seen that person, but he could let that slide. And then at the end of the test, decide whether to bring that in as a serious if you have any other faults. So a judgment call is often on the verge. Is there mitigating circumstances or not? And he will decide what to do with the judgment call. But when you're preparing yourself for a driving test, you should not be running up any judgment call. I see I've got you. I'm struggling to pass the theory test, guys. That if you're using that AI system that we've got, but use it on a PC, don't use it on a mobile phone, because you're going to be doing your theory test you're going to be doing your theory test on a computer, not on a mobile phone. So the best place to actually practice is on a PC, because it mocks that you're doing the mock that you're actually doing the theory on. And I would really recommend to do an hour's one-on-one tuition if you are struggling. Start with an hour's one-on-one tuition, and if you still need more, you can book in for another hour of one-on-one theory tuition. And the way that works is we link you up via Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, or Google Meet or something like that. You need to be at a PC, because that's the best place to do it. You sit down at a laptop or a PC or tablet, We link you up, and then we can watch what you're doing, and you physically are guided through the theory test. Okay. I see here, what was this? I was told the number of hours required on the road before qualifying for manual driving tests is at age 25. I'm not quite sure about that. Abayo, do you want to just put up your hand, Abayo? Is that Abayo? Let me ask you, you can open your mic, Abayomi. Is it Abayomi? Do you want to just ask me the question? Go for it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I want to know, someone told me that before you can qualify to go for manual driving test, you must have driven on the road for a number of hours that is the same as your age multiplied by 2.5. Is it true?
No, that's not true. No.
Oh.
No, that's not true. No. No, the number of hours you need to have been on the road will depend on your ability and your ability to your dexterity. Dexterity is your ability to say juggle balls, or to play games, or your ability to do things that are physically inclined. That if you are very challenged with, say, playing with a ball, or very challenged when you're playing soccer or something like that, because you're not very athletic, that's normally a reflection of your dexterity. Driving is dexterity. It's got a lot to do with your dexterity, your ability to do sports. So that will influence your driving ability. And then the number of hours you need to get ready for your test. There's no specific time period. I would say the minimum is around 20 to 25 hours. I have seen people pass at 23 hours of driving, but I mean, they were like helicopter pilots, really dexterous people, professional soccer players, that sort of thing. They learn physical activity and controls very quickly, highly dexterous people. But then there are some of us who struggle with that, and then with our dexterity. And there are people that need up to 70 hours because they can hardly ride a bicycle. They have so much difficulty with physical ability. But it has very little to do with your age. Obviously, when you get to my age, which is way over what you should be learning to drive at, but when you get to my age, your ability to learn decreases, and it takes you longer to learn dexterous things, and your short-term memory is also affected by age. So once you go, say, over 40, 45, 50, you could find it challenging to learn new things. But I have taught a lot of people that are 50 and 60 years old to drive, and because I'm old, I think I know what they're struggling with. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So, Abayo, if you're a good soccer player, go for it, my man. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm not.
Okay. All right. Okay, all of you, we find people who have ridden bicycles in the traffic are normally very, very traffic wise, and they learn quickly as well. Motorcycles or anything like that, or maybe driven in Africa somewhere. Then yeah, all of that will count and help you get through the driving test. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your question. Really appreciate it. Okay. All right, Harriet, you've been flipping your hand up and down. Harriet, go for it.
Yeah, hi, yeah. I'm just asking, is it ideal to do theory and practical at the same time?
Well, what you're asking me is, first of all, I'll explain that to you. You can start the moment you have your provisional license, if you're old enough to get your provisional license, or you have your provisional license. The moment you have your provisional license, you can start doing your practical driving. It does help a lot of people to start the practical driving while they're still studying their theory and getting through the theory. because it helps them relate how these things relate to each other and how to interpret those things. But I would say it's better to try and get through that theory as quickly as possible and put that behind you, because you can't book your practical driving test unless you passed your theory. Okay, so it's a question of character and learning ability, and what makes sense for the person. But really, it is very useful to have a good knowledge of the road signs, road markings, and those sort of things before you do too much driving. Okay, it's good to relate the two, and I would suggest it's not a bad idea. But if you're going to do an intensive course, I would suggest put that theory behind you and really get that behind you, and then do your roadcraft tuition as well. Do as much of the roadcraft as you possibly can before you get in the car to do your actual practical. Does that answer it, Harriet?
Yes, yes, it is. Because I'm just going to start, but I was thinking of doing practical as I'm just doing the theory right time.
Yeah, that's fine. But don't get too far down the practical driving side before you've actually finished your theory as well. Try and put a priority on getting that done, okay?
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, Harriet, you're welcome. All right, thanks for the question, appreciate it. Okay, guys, so I think the real message for tonight is, the first thing I want to say to you, don't be fooled by the fact that the DVSA say 52% of people pass their driving test. That's 52%. That means that you have to go at least 3 times to the driving test before you pass it. If you really want to prepare yourself, the way to do it is to have that mock test and evaluate yourself on the mock test with your driving instructor. Really simple mock test. It's not expensive. It's not a difficult thing to do. Once you get to the stage where you can drive by yourself, it's really simple. Just do a really simple mock test. Tell your driving instructor, here's a way I'd like to do the mock test. Or a lot of driving instructors will do it that way. I'm going to drive. If I do minor mistakes, mark them down for me, and we'll discuss them when we're finished on the mock test. But the moment I make a serious, dangerous, or judgment call, pull me over, and then let's evaluate what happened, and then let's start the test again. Because it's pointless driving a whole hour and then having 7 serious mistakes at the end of a whole hour's time. You're not getting enough interaction there. It's better just, when you make the serious or dangerous fault, stop the test. That's it. End of story. You've had your test. If it's 20 minutes, that's it. If it's 25 minutes, that's it. It's better than evaluate, reassess, start again, see if you can get to an hour without making those serious or dangerous faults. That's a really good way of determining if you're ready. If you can get through that driving where the instructor, all he's doing is he's navigating and watching and keeping you safe, and you can get to the hour, you're ready for that driving test. Good way to evaluate. And that'll also give you confidence when you go and do the driving test. But that's a really good way to do it. Thank you, everybody, for this evening. Really appreciated it. Enjoyed your company, and lots of good questions from everyone. Thank you so much.